So, night 2 of the Democratic Convention in Chicago was a party. The speakers talked about important issues like saving the Affordable Care Act and Social Security and Medicare. We talked about the importance of unions and the American worker, and unions across America were represented with Teamsters and retired members, all speaking up for American values and American people. But because this night also had what's called the roll call, it quickly turned into an absolute party. As I said before, the delegates already did a virtual roll call where they pledged their state's delegate to Kamala Harris and Tim Walz earlier in the month to make sure the candidates met the deadline for every ballot in the country. But on Tuesday night, they did a ceremonial roll call in the United Center in Chicago, and every single state and territory got its own shout out and moment in the spotlight to highlight the pride they have in their states, in their values, and in their favorite sons and daughters. It was a love letter to the country. Here we were in a room of people representing their states, and you saw in real time the diversity of this enormous country united under one purpose. If you want to feel pride in America, literally go and watch the Democratic roll call from 2024. I have to tell you, for a patriotic political nerd like me, this was one of the coolest things I have ever seen. Each state stood up, often with a famous person or a state leader, and gave some sort of state history or great moment they believed reflected who they were. They might have been the first state to abolish slavery or ratify votes for women. Shout out to Illinois. They might be the home state of JFK, Massachusetts, or Martin Luther King, Georgia, or the Indy 500, Indiana. I learned that Hawaii was the first state to legalize abortion and the first state to approve the ERA. It was this sea to shining sea of state spirit and flavor, and every face of the American story was represented. From the indigenous communities to our friends and family in the LGBTQ to Hispanic Americans, as well as our workers and civil rights activists and mothers and fathers and daughters and sons. Every part of America was celebrated and held up. We're told all the time how divided we are, that we're split into these red and blue states, that there is no coming back together. But this night proved the exact opposite. Here was the entire country and all of its territories extolling our uniqueness while celebrating our commonality. There was even state rivalry, where one state would say their state was the best, New York, and the other states would boo. And then New York's governor said in the most New York way ever,
"Hey, we're New Yorkers, get used to it."
Wisconsin said they had the best football team and all the other states booed again. It was light and funny, like siblings ribbing each other in one big family. It felt united. It was the United States. A huge shout out to the team that did the video graphics and to DJ Cassidy, who played a new song for every state that gave us the flavor of where we were in the country and made the whole thing feel like a massive celebration. FYI, the DNC roll call playlist is now on Spotify and you should probably check it out. A lot of people online pointed out that this is the kind of music you get when artists don't send you cease and desist letters. And fun fact, the Democrats got permission from every artist to use their music at the convention this week, which tells you the support the Democrats have within the artistic community. Before I wrap up roll call, I would like to call attention to 2 states that really stuck out to me. West Virginia had 2 delegates speak. One was an 86-year-old Black woman who told us she will not, and she repeated it, she will not let everything that she fought for her entire life be taken away by Donald Trump. And then she handed the microphone to an 18-year-old white woman who said she will not let her freedom or her future be taken away by Donald Trump. And then the 2 of them together announced their state's votes for the Harris-Walz ticket. In that one picture, we had young, old, Black, white, old school, new school, united in the same dream. It highlighted the diversity and inclusivity of the Democratic Party, how they're a party where everyone is welcome and every voice belongs. Finally, the Minnesota delegates brought Tim Walz's actual neighbor to announce their pledged delegates to the ticket. Tim's neighbor Hans stood there beside Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar and talked about his neighbor Tim, who he said was a truly good person who had always made time for him. That Tim even made time in his busy schedule as governor to make it to his brother's funeral, and how much that had meant to Hans. Hans said, Tim has always been there for us, and he will always be there for you as vice president. It was wholesome and real, and the antithesis of the Republican ticket who lives in a golden tower above us all. And to be clear, Tim wasn't even in the room to hear his neighbor talk, because he was in Milwaukee with Vice President Harris in another packed stadium. The Harris-Walz ticket packed 2 giant arenas in the same night with cheering fans. In fact, Kamala Harris did her acceptance speech to the roll call from the stage in Milwaukee, and the excitement from both crowds was literally palpable. You could feel it. The will of the country is behind this ticket. It is looking to the future, and it wants to go there united. I have never seen anything like this in my life, and it was an honor to be there. As I tweeted that night, the Democratic roll call is electric. I love this country. What an amazing, diverse, joyful place this is. Never forget it.